What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another Yugi-Kaiba format video. And in today's video, I wanted to show off this sort of jank deck, Backrow Control, that you saw in my last video. Sumo Kami was playing it, and so it is a deck that gets played, but I don't know. I think this deck is extremely jank. I think that isn't quite that good. So, I think I'm not the best person to actually play with this deck and pilot it. And for that reason, I will be dueling someone who is much more well-versed in the jank than I am. The one, the only, Janjo from the Janjo Zone YouTube channel. So it's very exciting that we actually have a duel with him on the channel now. And it was a really good duel. So I'm excited to show it off. But before I show off that duel, I should probably explain what this deck actually wants to do. So Backrow Control is a deck that is attempting to make use of like the Stern Mystic to gain information about your opponent's back row, and then use tools like Trap Master and Dispel to snipe like opponent's spells and traps, and basically deprive them of powerful tools that they could use to stop your plays. So in theory, the deck isn't bad because the really powerful cards in this format are things like the Power 5 spells that are all limited, and like trap cards like Trap Hole or Reinforcements or Uboku. But in practice, I think the deck's just a bit too slow, a bit too conditional. Like, your opponent can play around it quite easily if they so choose. And so I don't think the deck actually is that good. I think it's one of the worst decks I've actually shown off on the channel. But maybe you'll see that in the duels, maybe not. Maybe the deck will do better than I expect. We'll just have to find out. For the individual cards in this deck, we have, of course, 3 Login, 3 Neo, 3 Battle Locks, the premier beaters of the format. These enable you to actually make aggressive pushes, which is important because you're not playing things like Summon Skull or any big tribute monsters. So you'll need to use these to get aggressive. We are also playing 3 Man Your Bug. This is just great removal. It can deal with your opponent's monsters very well. And also, an upside to the Stern Mystic is that you can know what your opponent's set monsters are. So that can potentially come up with a bug if you want to pop a specific set monster that they have. It doesn't come up often, but it can come up, I guess. For the other flip monsters, we have the Stern Mystic, which is, gets you knowledge on all your opponent's back row, enables you to accurately snipe them with things like Trap Master and Dispel and the like. So that's pretty good. And also 1500 attack is nothing to scoff at as well. We've also got 3 Trap Master, which is the main form of removal for traps in the deck. And honestly, most likely you'll be sniping traps, especially if your opponent does figure out you're on Backrow Control, because then they just probably won't set their spells. So Trap Master is the bigger form of back row removal that you've got in the deck. The deck is also playing 1 Armed Ninja. I talked to Janjo after the duels that we did, and he said that he'd probably cut this, and I agree. I think that if you really do want the spell removal that Armed Ninja can offer, you might as well just include another Dispel instead, because Armed Ninja is just a bit too slow. Most of the spells that you'd want to get rid of with an Armed Ninja are things that can deal with the Armed Ninja, like Change of Heart, Dark Hole, all of it. Like, it's just not the best card to use in the deck. And if you do 100% know where your opponent's spells are due to Stern Mystic, your opponent will likely play them to, avoid getting it popped. So I think Armed Ninja is not the best inclusion in this deck, and Janjo does agree. He said that he would swap that out for something else. So you can either do a Dispel or just put in like maybe another Giant Soldier of Stone, maybe another Stern Mystic. There are a couple different options that you can use instead of the Armed Ninja. For these spells, we have Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Monster Reborn, Pot of Greed, Raigeki, the limited power spells in the format, all incredibly good. We have 3 Fissure to act as removal for our opponent's monsters. We have 2 Dispel to act as removal for their back row, since we will likely know where their spells are potentially. And Dispel can also deal with Swords within Light as well. Speaking of swords, we also have 2 swords, which is, great at stalling your opponent for a bit. And this deck can require that at times because it doesn't have the best monsters in it. So you might not have the monster that you need at a given time to protect yourself. So swords can be important. We also have 3 Trap Hole to act as removal on your opponent's turn, 3 Wuboku to protect your life points and your monsters, and 2 Reinforcements. I understand why, we're not playing 3 just because of deck space, but I think that's part of why this deck isn't the best, is because it needs to fill itself up with monsters that are kind of suboptimal, and it needs to replace better cards like Reinforcement with those monsters. So I think maybe, you could, if you're swapping out the Armed Ninja, you could add in a Reinforcement instead if you so wish, because Reinforcement is a very good card. But I understand why this iteration of the deck is not running it. For the side deck, we have another Armed Ninja. If we need to get more spell sniping done. We also have another copy of Dispel for that same reason, I guess. Against stall decks, if you want to snipe swords, then you could maybe bring these in, but I don't know, it's a bit iffy. We also have another Stern Mystic. I guess if our opponent's playing a more back row heavy deck, this can be good. We've got some more defenders, a Giant Soldier of Stone, 2 Mystical Elf. These could potentially be like Aquamador, but Mystical Elf does dodge around Trap Hole, which is nice. We have 3 Summon Skull, 3 Soul Exchange. If we want to go into a more heavy Soul Control package, then we can do that. I think maybe you could cut 1 Soul Exchange from the side deck to maybe even replace it with another Tribute monster, but because we already do have Change of Heart in the main. But this does make it so that your Summon Skulls will be dead less of the time, so I guess there's that. We also have 2 Card Destruction against Exodia, and we have a Reinforcements if we want to get a bit more aggressive. We also do have a Fusion deck here to sort of mind game the opponent. If they maybe think that we are on a Fusion strategy, instead they might play a bit differently. So we have this set up in the extra deck. But this part isn't really important. Now that I've covered Janjo's take on the Backrow Control strategy, let's dive into the game so you can see how it plays. Okay, we've got a game against Janjo here. They're using their dueling book profile of Heavy Metal Raider, and they are playing Backrow Control. What are we playing? Well, we're playing arguably Backrow Control's best matchup, which is Worm Control. The reason why this is such a good matchup for Backrow Control is because Worm Control depends heavily on Ultimate Offering to bring out monsters during your opponent's battle phase. If, Ultimate Offering is gotten rid of by like a Trap Master, then the deck can really suffer. So Backrow Control should give Worm Control a fair bit of trouble in these games. So let's see how it does. And also, you can watch our banter in the dueling book chat on the side there. It is quite fun. But it looks like we will be going first here. And I am rooting for them because I do want to see Backrow Control do well. And that's why I, loaded in with Worm Control, because I think that it will be a very interesting matchup, or at least more interesting than against something like Soul Control. But anyways, we are going first, and this hand is actually pretty terrible. 2 Ultimate Offering is not what you want to see. Against a Backrow Control deck, it's actually pretty decent, because if they pop one, we've got the other. But in most games, you don't want to really see this. And having more than 1 copy doesn't really do anything for us here. 2 Reinforcements is okay. We can summon out a Neo, set like an Ultimate Offering, 2 Reinforcements, pass back to them. I guess that's an okay board, but if they've got a Fisher, they can deal with that pretty easily. So this is kind of a rough board. This hand is killer. It kills us because it's not very good. We're just going to bring out Neo, set Ultimate Offering, plus 2 Reinforcements, pass back to them. Might be a bit risky if they do have a Fisher or something, but we're going to take that risk. And unfortunately, we don't have Trap Dust Shoot, which is not out yet. But that would be killer with this hand here. They are going to set 3 and pass back to us. And we're just going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast, try and get the offensive pressure going. And they're going to reveal it's an armed ninja, try and pop one of our sets. Unfortunately for them, we have not drawn a spell this entire game. So they're only going to see a trap. And this is a reason why, you know, maybe you should swap out Armed Ninja. Because if you don't know where the spells are, it's kind of tough. And your opponent's less likely to set spells than they are traps. So Blind Trap Master is much better than a Blind Armed Ninja. And this is just kind of rough for Janjo because now we can attack in for 14. And our back row is pristine, you know. We're going to set the Woboku, pass back to them. And they're going to Pot of Greed, which is a very nice draw. Bring out a Lodgin and Fisher away our Neo, which is smart. They're going to attack in. And we do have the choice here of bringing out Wicked Worm Beast with Ultimate Offering, trying to bait them into attacking into it, and then activating a Reinforcements or two to keep the Worm Beast alive. We are not going to do that. We're just going to, you know, let it go through and they'll pass back to us. Wall of Illusion's a great draw here. And we are going to bring out Wicked Worm Beast to potentially get over the Lodgin, but also to bait out something like a Trap Hole, which we did. So, you know, Wicked Worm Beast will die, but we've got Wall of Illusion for the next turn, so feel pretty good about that. Lodgin's going to attack in. We are going to bring out a set, and they're not even going to attack in just in case like a wall or something. They will just Swords and Fisher away that wall. So now we're in a tough spot because we need a monster or else we're just going to take a ton of damage here. Luckily that is a monster, so we could bring that out. They have used 2 Fishers, so it's unlikely that they have a third one on hand. So honestly, it's not the worst play, and I think we might do it. The only issue is like a Trap Hole would really be rough for us here. So if they've got Trap Hole, that's really bad, but luckily it seems like they don't. We could have also, you know, chain blocked around it, but we would have had to take 1,000 damage, which is kind of unfortunate. So I just choose to play into Trap Hole. Worst case scenario, we do have a Woboku, so. And they're going to Raigeki away our Battle Ox just to get in for more damage. And I respect that, you know. Clearly we're in a tough spot, and clearly we have like a Reinforcements to back up our Battle Ox. So they're just going to get in for more damage, and, you know, we're just going to take it. We're down pretty low, but, you know, they're out aggroing us, which is very unfortunate. We don't draw a monster, we're just going to have to pass, and they're going to get in for another 18. We have Woboku, but, like, 1,800 is not really that good to Woboku, so we're saving the Woboku for a better chance, but we might not really have a better chance later on. We draw Raigeki, and we may have to use it here. We're waiting a bit, so I guess if they bring out another monster, we can Woboku that. And, yeah, this is rough, though. We're going to have to fire the Woboku now. If that's set as a Reinforcements, we just lose. So we can't afford to let that attack go through. Trap Hole's okay, but doesn't deal with the Lodgin, so we will be forced to fire the Raigeki. Go big or go home, you know. Clear the Lodgin. We get to set the Trap Hole, so we do get to stop whatever other monsters they bring out to follow up the Lodgin with. And luckily that does come in clutch for us here. Those pass back to us, and Wicked Worm Beast, not the best in this case, but we will just bring it out and attack in. And we can always bring it out during our opponent's turn with Ultimate Offering. We do have 3 Reinforcements to back it up, so not the worst summon off of Ultimate Offering. They're just going to set 1, pass back to us, and we're just going to bring out a monster, attack in, and that is a Trap Master. They will be able to pop our Ultimate Offering, but we do have another Ultimate Offering in hand, so we're still feeling okay about that. They're going to bring out Lodgin, and luckily we do have the Ultimate Offering to bring out a Wicked Worm Beast. And we will be able to Reinforcements. They'll Reinforcements in response, but we've got another Reinforcements so that we can actually win the battle. But we did have to use up 2 Reinforcements to deal with their reinforcements, which is kind of unfortunate. We've got 1 reinforcements left, a pretty weak monster in hand, and they have swords too, so we can't even go on the offensive here. Very rough. We are just going to set the Fisher and, you know, pass back to them. We could have set the Wall of Illusion here, but if they do have, like, Dark Hole, then that's really unfortunate. And we have to save the Wall of Illusion to bring out during their battle phase, basically. This is a really rough spot for us. Backrow Control's put a lot of pressure on this deck. But luckily, it seems like they've run out of aggressive pressure, which is pretty nice. We're going to set a Wicked Worm Beast because, honestly, we don't really need to at this juncture. We don't really have the life points to make repeated summoning of multiple Wicked Worm Beasts that viable. So we're just going to set one, try and bait out potentially like a Dark Hole, or just chump block in attack. It's not the best play that we could do, but it's also not the worst, so they're going to set 2, pass back to us. And, you know, we're going to think about this, but we honestly don't have many options here. So, yeah, it's like, if that set card is a Trap Master, and they can pop the Ultimate Offering, then we'll be in a lot of trouble. Which is why we have to think so much about this. They have used Raigeki, so if they want to clear our entire board, they'd have to use like Dark Hole, which would also clear their own monster. But it is a possibility if they like flip up Trapmaster, pop Ultimate Offering, Dark Hole the board, summon out a monster, we just lose. So it's kind of rough, but I don't think that we can actually afford to actually play around Dark Hole, so we are just going to set a defender here. And it is a Wall of Illusion, so we've set our good defender, just in case that actually is a Trap Master. But we're in a very tough spot. They revealed actually a Man-Eater bug, which is okay for us, but it's really rough if they attack into the Wall of Illusion with the Man-Eater bug, because then they get it back for later. So that's very unfortunate. They do just set another monster, which we're honestly okay with, because they didn't attack into the wall, so they don't get back the bug, which is very nice. So we're just going to flip up Battle-Ox, flip up wall, and just try and attack into everything. Maybe, I think we should have attacked with wall into bug before we attacked into their set. But I think the reason why we did this is if it's a Trap Master and they choose to target one of our back row and they snipe the reinforcements, we can then use the reinforcements on the wall, get in a little bit more damage. I'm not sure that's the correct play, but it is a reason to do it in this order. I think it's just a bit risky, though, if it's bug. I guess if it's bug, we actually don't care if they pop the wall, because we do have reinforcements to back up the Battle-Ox. So I guess there's that too, but still a bit iffy. It's a Trap Master, they do pop the Ultimate Offering, and now we're out of Ultimate Offerings. So we're in a really tough spot if they can actually get an offensive pressure on board here. If they do have Dark Hole and any beater, then we just lose. So let's hope they don't have that. They're going to bring out Neo, and they're just going to attack into our Battle-Ox. They're going to Uboku, and honestly, we're okay with that. We could have reinforcements to keep the Battle-Ox alive. But, like, we've got another way in hand to deal with Neo. We've also got the Fisher to deal with the Neo. So we can save the reinforcements for a later point. They're going to set one, pass back to us. And we draw a Battle-Ox, which is great. We are going to just bring out that Battle-Ox because at this point, we're like, if they've got Dark Hole, we just lose. So there's no real reason to play around it. And we are just going to Fisher away their monster, try and get in for a ton of damage, try and get aggro enough that they can't actually recover from this position. So they are going to take it and just set one, pass back to us. We're feeling pretty good about this. We're going to summon out Wicked Worm Beast, and we're just going to try and attack in for game. Let's hope here. They're going to Uboku to keep themselves alive, which is unfortunate. Flip up the Trap Master, and here there's a bit of an interesting rulings question, and I think the way that this works is when the Trap Master gets flipped up, I am able to just activate reinforcements before the Trap Master actually targets something with its effect, because because this is still in damage calculation. The flip effect would happen after damage calculation, which would then force the Trap Master to target, like, their own set. I think that's how it would work, but I'm actually unsure about that. So if anyone does know, please let me know in the comments below. As is, we just play it like the Trap Master gets to target my set, and I just chain reinforcements, because I don't really think it matters all that much. But I do think that, I mean, if it did work the way that you can activate reinforcements before Trap Master gets to activate its effect, then we could have been able to actually force their Trap Master to potentially pop their last back row, which would have been a lot better for us. Ultimately, I don't actually think it matters in this game, so, you know, it doesn't matter either way. It might matter in other games, though, so it's probably good to get clarification on that ruling in the future. They're going to set 1 Dispel our set, so they do actually manage to snipe a Monster Reborn, which is really rough because Monster Reborn is just a great card. And yeah, that was a great Dispel. Maybe we shouldn't have set the Monster Reborn, but I think we wanted to make it so that, you know, we could have Oboku, so we don't want them to do a super aggressive play. I don't know. It might have been a mistake against the Backrow Control deck, but they've managed to snipe some good cards so far, which is very unfortunate for us. We're going to bring out Wicked Wormbeats that will get Trap Hold here, and we do have an option to actually swing for game. If we change of heart their Trap Master, then we do get to attack for game here. But we could just do the safe play, attacking over it with Battle Axe, attacking in with Wall. So it's a bit of a thinker here. And we will just go for Battle Axe and then Wall. And also, as a note, that is my last Wicked Wormbeast. So we're out of Wicked Wormbeast, we're out of Ultimate Offering. So the deck is really flying by the seat of its pants now. It's a bit tough here. We're just going to set the Change of Heart. If that last set is a D-spell and they get rid of it, then that's kind of unfortunate. But honestly, in such a simplified game state, we're willing to take that risk. And if they do that, then they probably won't have a way to follow up on it. So they draw the Dark Hole, so they will be able to clear our entire board. And we draw a monster, and they reveal that that was just a reinforcements. So we are able to clean up the game here. But man, that was an intense game of Yugi-Kaiba. Backrow Control put up a lot more of a fight than I thought it would. I mean, as I said, this is Backrow Control's best matchup. But still, like, you know, the deck just always seemed too jank to me to actually be able to put the pressure on me that it did here. So, bravo. And part of that's due to Janjo being a great player and piloting this sort of jank very, very well. Which is why I wanted him to show off the deck on the channel, because he'd do it much more justice than I ever could. But that's game 1. And that was super intense, as I said. For the siding, I don't actually think we side here because we were able to win game 1. And so I want to see if we can just win game 2. Maybe they side out of Backrow Control somehow or something. I don't know. I'm just keeping it on Worm Control. I think that's better for, like, entertainment value anyways, at least. So let's keep it on Worm Control. See how it goes. And this time we're going second, and we drew Ultimate Offering again first turn, but this time we don't have a second one in hand, which could make our Ultimate Offering a bit more fragile with their Trap Masters, but it's kind of unfortunate. We just have to hope we draw into the other one over the course of the game, I guess. We're going to bring out Battle Axe and just try and attack into that set. It's very likely to be like a Man-Eater bug because there's no way they'd set like Arm Ninja or Trap Master on a board where we don't have any back row, because that would just be a strict negative for them. So we are going to attack in, and it is bug, which we kind of figured, but you know, it would have been really funny if that was a Trap Master. We are just going to set 3 pass back to them. We have 1 spell set and 2 traps. So, you know, if they do have a Trap Master, they might potentially try and target the spell. If they've got a D spell, we've got 2 traps to potentially avoid them from hitting the Fisher. And note that we've kept the most powerful spell in hand, so that way it's not susceptible to Dispel or Arm Ninjas. So we're feeling pretty good about this turn. They're going to set one pass back to us. And honestly, we could just Dark Hole it and then summon out Lodgin just to preserve our traps. But we've got a 1/3 chance of avoiding our traps dying anyways. So we feel okay just bringing out Lodgin, attacking in. And they do go for the spell. Thank goodness. So we feel very good about that. We're not going to set our 2 power spells in hand. If they did side into some card destructions to punish us for keeping powerful spells in hand to avoid D-spells and the like, then bravo. They've gotten us. But like, we're feeling okay about this. And it might be a mistake, but we're not getting D-spelled. We don't want our spells in hand to get D-spelled. And it looks like they will dispel a Fisher here, because they know that it's a spell from their Trap Master. Which is another advantage to the Trap Master, is that even if you don't hit a trap, you do get to know a back row, and thus know more information on it. So, the dispel on our Fisher, kind of rough, but also not unexpected. Lodgin's going to attack into Bug. Unfortunately, we do lose the Lodgin there. And we are just going to set the wall. You might wonder why this is when we have an Ultimate Offering set already. We want to keep knowledge of the Ultimate Offering close to our chest for as long as possible, because Ultimate Offering is just a perfect target for Trap Master. So if we can get them to have a tough time guessing our traps with Trap Master for as long as possible, then we'd like that. And if they do want to clear this wall with like a Dark Hole, or they want to use a Change of Heart on it, honestly, we're okay with that, because that gets them to use up one of their power spells. They do swords, so they will be able to see what the wall is, and then they'll pass back to us. So we are going to Dark Hole their board, because we don't really have a good way to dodge it if that is a Trap Master, and it turns out it is, and we want to preserve our Ultimate Offering and Waboku in hand. We also have a Trap Hole to deal with if they bring out another monster to try and attack in. And they're down to just top decking cards, so we're honestly okay with the board state as is. So we just Dark Hole to play it safe, and we'll pass back to them. Looks like they don't have offensive pressure, which is very nice for us. We draw a sword, which is also pretty nice. They're just going to pass back to us. Nope, we don't really feel the need to fire the swords right now, because they're not putting any offensive monsters on board. We've got another Trap Hole in hand, so if they do actually get aggressive on us, then we can deal with it. But we're feeling very good about this. They'll pass back to us. And, we don't have a monster either, so unfortunately, we will just Reborn back our Lodgin. And we're just going to attack in. This gets offensive pressure on the board. Maybe it's a bit of a waste. Maybe we should have saved the Reborn for a later date when it could get more value. But we figure they've got no monsters to stop this, so we're just going to try and get as aggressive as possible, as early as possible. And they will swords and just set one, pass back to us. And they're going to flip up Bug, pop the Lodgin, get in for 450. Bug beats, Lodgin's pretty good. We'll just set the Lodgin. If they do have a monster with over 1,000 attack, we can Trap Hole it. If they try and attack him with the Bug, anticipating like a Wall of Illusion, then we can bring out our Lodgin in a way that dodges around Trap Hole. So, feeling pretty good about that. They're going to bring out Battle Axe. We are just going to Trap Hole that. And they will attack in with the Bug, and they'll take 550. And Lodgin dodges around Trap Hole. So that was pretty fun there. And now we'll just switch Lodgin to attack, because it's got more attack than defense. So we'll set the Trap Hole to replace the one we just lost. They will Fisher, and they will get in for 450. Bug beats is real. We're going to take 450. And we draw a Bug of our own. So we could bring that out, but they will just Trap Hole our Neo. We will flip up the Ultimate Offering here, because they have used up 2 Trap Masters, so they've only got 1 Trap Master left, And we've got 2 ultimate offerings in deck, so we can always replace it potentially later. And they will trap hole our Worm Beast as well. I figured maybe they only had 1 trap hole set because, you know, if we don't use ultimate offering, you can only activate 1 trap hole per turn basically. But they did anticipate the ultimate offering, so bit unfortunate there. We do lose our worm, and they will be able to get in for 450. But we don't actually let them do that. We just set a bug so we can pop their set monster. And we do pop a Stern Mystic, which is pretty good. We draw another bug, which is pretty nice. And we are thinking about what to do here. We're also discussing just like Stern Mystic and all that stuff, because it is a very interesting card, and it has been featured in some Last Will Turbo builds, which is a very cool direction to take that deck. But we are just going to pass back to them. I think we're worried about our reinforcements. We don't really want to use our reinforcements. I think this was a mistake, though. We should have just forced them to use it if they had it. We don't really care about this bug surviving, so we should have just attacked into their bug. They're going to bring out Neo. That's fine by us. They'll attack into the bug. Bug will die. They'll switch bug to defense and pass back to us. We draw another ultimate offering. We're just going to pass back to them because we can bring out bug with the ultimate offering here. We don't think they're running remove trap, so we're comfortable just leaving the state of the game like this. And bug will pop the Neo. And they'll set 1, pass back to us. We draw Woboku, which is not that helpful right now. They're going to switch their bug to attack, get in for more damage, another 450. We've been losing a lot of life points to that bug. They've used up 2 trap holes already, so we're not the most worried about another trap hole. Unfortunately, they do have another trap hole, so they will get rid of our Wicked Worm Beast. At least all 3 of the trap holes are gone now, but it doesn't deal with the threat on board, which is that Man-Eater bug, so I don't know. It's a tough bug right there. We're going to think about this for a bit, and we will just set another ultimate offering, anticipating that that's like a Trap Master or something. So if they pop this ultimate offering, we still have another to use for the Man-Eater bug in hand. And unfortunately it's a Stern Mystic, so we do get a bit punished for that. And we are just going to trap hole it because I mean, why not? You know, we can bring out Wicked Worm Beast with an ultimate offering during the battle phase to deal with whatever other offensive threats they bring out, and you know, we might as well deal with the Stern Mystic now. Looks like they've got Dark Hole and Reinforcements set, so now we have to play a bit around Dark Hole. Reinforcements shouldn't be that big a deal, but it's good to know about. They're going to attack in with Giant Soldier, and we are just going to set the bug here. Bug will die. We'll pop the Giant Soldier since that's the bigger threat. And they're just going to attack in with the bug for 450. So, you know, we will lose a bit more damage there. But now we're feeling good about our chances to get rid of that bug. Lodgin is a great draw. We know they're out of trap holes, so we can just use it and try and attack in. If they Woboku the bug, that's fine by us. They've used up Woboku. And now they're taking 1350, and we've got a big monster on board, so we're feeling very good about this. They're going to Fisher away our Lodgin, unfortunately. And we don't draw another monster, we just draw another Woboku, which is kind of rough. They're going to set 1, pass back to us. Neither of us are drawing monsters. This is pretty crazy. We're just going to set a Fisher, pass back to them. They'll pass back to us. We draw another Swords. This is pretty wild. It's not like our decks are like playing no monsters. We've got a decent amount of monsters in deck. It's just, it seems like they're all at the bottom. So it's a game of just drawing spells and traps and not being able to use them. Kind of funny. They're going to bring out Battle Ox, and we're okay with that. They're going to attack in. We are just going to use Woboku here. We can Fisher it away on our next turn. Battle Ox of our own is pretty nice. We're going to summon out the Ox, Fisher away their Battle Ox, and then just attack in. We could have Change of Hearted to go for a lot of damage, but I think we want to save that for later when it can be more impactful. We'll set a Waboku, pass back to them. They're going to Fisher away our Battle Ox. Draw 2 with the Pot of Greed. And they do draw another monster, so they will be able to summon out the Neo, attack in for 17. And we could Waboku this, but we're saving Waboku for a point where we need it. Hopefully, you know, we draw a monster, and we do draw a monster there. So we will be able to bring out the Neo. And here we're just going to attack in. And they're going to use up a Waboku. We're okay with that because we've got swords to follow it up with. So this should hopefully stall attacks. If they do have a D-spell, which is very likely they do since they have only used up 1 and they probably are on more than 1, then they can D-spell the swords, but we do have Waboku to follow it up with. So we're not too upset about that. So they will dispel the swords. We do have Waboku to prevent the damage. And they'll set 1, pass back to us. We finally draw another monster. It does not really help us here. We could summon the Wall of Illusion, Change of Heart the Neo, and go in for lethal damage potentially. But, I mean, they probably have 2 more Wabokus in store. It could just be good to get us to get them to use up the 2 Wabokus. So, honestly, not the worst option there, and we might do it. We're thinking about it at least. Instead, we're just going to activate another sword instead of Waboku, and pass back to them. I think it's probably for the best. You know, we want to save Change of Heart for a big damage push, and you know, we're not at risk of deck out. The game has gotten to the point where one of us could feasibly actually deck out, but you know, they're lower on cards than we are, so they're going to deck out before we do. And so we don't really need to worry about that. We can just worry about stalling the game a bit to a point where we can actually win. This is kind of unfortunate because we'd like to use like Raigeki or Change of Heart to deal with that set monster there. But unfortunately, all our back rows are clogged, so we won't be able to do anything about that. And that's just really rough. We're thinking about it. We could activate Waboku preemptively just to clear up the back row space, but that's really greedy, so we're not going to do it. And they will be able to flip up the Trap Master, pop the reinforcements. Real unfortunate for us, but now that's the way it goes. We will just set a wall and set a Change of Heart, pass back to them. The reasoning for this is that if they clear it with like a Raigeki or something, which, you know, they still haven't used Raigeki, so that's possible. Then they'll have used up Raigeki. We can bring out the other wall with Ultimate Offering. And if they choose to attack into it with Trap Master, then set the Trap Master. We can Change of Heart, pop one of their traps, potentially tribute it off for a Summoned Skull. So we're feeling pretty good about that. We don't really need to get in damage with the wall here. They're going to Raigeki our wall, which, you know, is what we predicted. I guess we're going to Waboku this, which I don't necessarily agree with. I guess we don't want them to clear the wall if they've got reinforcements set, which they probably do. But I don't know. I don't know how I like that. I think that's kind of iffy. We're going to Raigeki their board away, set the trap hole, and then pass back to them. I think this is iffy too. I think we should have just summoned out the wall. But I guess we're worried about if they Change of Heart. And 3 reinforcements is not unlikely to have in the back row. So I think we're playing it a bit too safe here. I don't necessarily agree with this. They're going to Reborn back our Lodgin. And this is actually great because we can just Ultimate Offering, set wall, and then bounce the Lodgin back to hand. So we feel pretty good about that, even if they did use a Reinforcements to get over it. And you might wonder why they Reborn from our graveyard, knowing that we do have walls in play. Lodgin, they did not use any Lodgins so far. Looks like those last 4 cards have 3 Lodgins in them probably. So, you know, I think they did do the right thing to get a bigger monster on board. But unfortunately it backfired for them. They're just going to set 2, pass back to us. And we are going to Change of Heart, taking their Giant Soldier. We're going to summon out Summoned Skull. We know they're out of trap holes. So they're just going to Waboku that, pass back. We'll pass back to them. They're out of Fissures as well, so we can just leave this lone Summoned Skull on field. If they do Change of Heart it, that's kind of rough, but we do have Ultimate Offering to bring out a monster to defend ourselves. So we're not too worried about that. They're going to Dark Hole to summon Skull away, unfortunately, and we will Trap Hole their Lodging that they'll bring out afterwards. We can feel comfortable Pot of Greeting here because, you know, they still lose the deck out war. Maybe I should have considered whether they had a card destruction sided in, you know, to punish if we held power spells in hand. That would make it kind of rough for us in a deck out war scenario, but we want the extra cards just to have more ways to deal with whatever they do. We're going to bring out Battle Ox, attack in, and they are going to think about that for a bit, check our graveyard, see what we might have. And this is a really intense turn. It's like down to the wire. Like, this turn and the next turn will probably determine the winner of the game. And it's just, this has been an insane duel. And there's so many different, like, factors to these last two turns. So many different possibilities that could happen. It's just, like, really, really interesting here. So, there's a lot to think about here. They will just take the damage. We'll set 2 to provide even more bluffs. And pass back to them. So they're checking our graveyard to see what we could potentially have left. You know, we've used up 3 Trap Holes, so we can't have any Trap Holes. We've used up 3 Ubokus, but we could potentially have 2 Reinforcements set. So they have to consider that possibility. So, yeah, I flip up the Ultimate Offering here just to show them, you know, the information that they already know. Technically, this is, technically I shouldn't have done this. Like, if we were actually playing a serious duel and, like, all that stuff, flipping up the Ultimate Offering here could actually potentially open me up to getting double remove trapped, and that could potentially kill me. But, I mean, I don't think they're on remove trap anyways, and this isn't really, like, a super serious, like, ranked duel or whatever. This is just more like a fun game, just to show off these 2 decks. So, you know, I don't think that this actually matters in the long run. And it's just good manners, too. They're going to bring out Lodgin, and they are going to Woboku here first. And we've got to think about this, because we could use the Reinforcements to keep the Battle Ox alive. And we check their graveyard to see what they've got. And they're out of Trap Holes. So we don't really need to, because our Lodgin will be fine being summoned next turn. We know they're out of Wobokus. So there's not really any risk to letting this attack go through. If they've got 2 Reinforcements of their own to try and get in like 1100 damage, then we can Reinforcements here. And we're honestly fine with that. If they've got an Ultimate Offering of their own, then that's, I mean, that's really good for them. We might not be able to deal with that. But, I mean, it's probably best to play it safe if they've got an Ultimate Offering of their own. So I think we should actually Reinforcements here, even though it doesn't really matter. But we do. So we activate a Reinforcement to keep the Battle Ox alive, and we do Fisher away their Battle Ox. We summon out a Neo, keep the Lodgin in hand in case somehow they survive to the next turn. But that will be the end of the game. Looks like they don't have an Ultimate Offering. They've gone through all their Ubokus. And, man, that was a good one. A very weird game, too. You know, normally matches between these 2 decks don't actually get to the point where deck out is a viable ending to the game. But a very, very good match here. Janjo, of course, is a great duelist. And this deck did wonders in his hands. And, like, I'm not sure that the deck is that good. I mean, it didn't actually manage to win the match, even though it did give us some difficulty throughout. And this is, as I said, I think Backrow Control's best matchup. But it did look a lot better than I expected it to. And I think with some like minor changes that I mentioned in the deck breakdown section of the video, it could potentially get even better. So, you know, while I don't think Backrow Control is actually that good, I think it is a viable jank option if you want to play it. It's just got too many flaws just baked into the deck inherently that I think it will never actually be that good, even if it is like jank viable. But again, special thanks to Janjo for dueling me here. I'll have a link to his channel in the description below. But this was just a blast of a game. One of the best games, I think, that I featured on the channel here. Just very, very cool. Game 2 was super, super intense. Down to the wire, down to the last 2 cards in deck. And this was just awesome. So thank you so much to Janjo again. If you want to see some more jank in this format, and also potentially some discussions of other old formats and potential spicy tech cards and jank in those formats, then be sure to check out Janjo's channel, the Janjo Zone, where he covers all those decks in great detail. But I think this was a great way to sort of cap off my duels in Yugi-Kaiba format. As I've said before, I don't think I'll ever stop making content about Yugi-Kaiba format. I think it's a really fun format. It's very unique among all of Yu-Gi-Oh's other historical formats. But I think I have covered pretty much every strategy that I want to cover, every strategy that I think is decently viable. And so because of that, I am planning on transitioning into the next format, which is Critter format, which is very different from Yugi-Kaiba in some very exciting ways. So I'm very excited to dive into that with y'all. If you want to, keep posted when I post those videos, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. We recently reached 100 subscribers late last week, which is very exciting to me. And I think it would be really cool if we could reach 150 in October. That would be a really awesome milestone to reach. So yeah, if you like my stuff, be sure to subscribe. And also like the video as well if you liked the video, because that really does help the video get more views. But until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.